Another myth we hear on the street a lot is, you know, it's cool, I only share my needles with people who also have Hep C, so I'm all good. But, you know, then we want to jump in. Again, we're not going to shake our head no and be like, you shouldn't do that, you know, even if that's the reaction I have in my mind, which sometimes it is. What I'm going to do is just remember, non-judgmental and respectful, and say, hey, you know what you should know is there's multiple strains of hepatitis C. You can reinfect yourself multiple times, wreak havoc on your liver, and you know about HIV. And on the streets, on outreach, there can be any number of conversations that follow. Like I still get the answer, well, yeah, but I'm not gay. You know? And so, again, we're not going to condemn, we're not going to judge, we're going to remember the non-judgmental, respectful approach. But immediately in our heads, we should suddenly see this spectrum of behaviors and think, okay, this guy's sharing needles with multiple people, has no awareness of HIV or Hep C. This person's way down now toward the side of the spectrum that is severe illness and high risk. Any questions about that so far?
What age group do you cater to? I mean, I know it's young adults, but is there an age that you don't touch or you don't talk to?
No.
Because they're too old? Or?
No. Good question. I was trying to cover the harm reduction piece first, but I'd really like to talk about who we do it with. So, we're called Janus Youth Programs. The feds fund us in part to focus on 25-year-olds and younger. So typically, like historically, the youth age has been up to 21. And when you turn 21, you age out and you're like an adult. You're into the adult system. And with emerging brain research beginning to demonstrate that adolescence is this much grayer, longer period of time, we've been able to extend our definition of youth all the way through 25th birthday, which is still, you know, kind of an arbitrary number, but it's closer to what science is proving is more realistic for the adolescent developing brain. So that's been nice because the feds have come around to that. So primarily we're targeting people who are 25 and younger, but when we're out on outreach, we talk to everybody and anybody. If anybody we feel comfortable and safe talking to, we'll talk to them, regardless of age or anything else. So I'd be more inclined to talk, to the younger folks, but we spend a lot of time in Old Town, and there's a lot of crossover too. Sometimes it's strategic because we want to be known as non-judgmental kind of advocates on the street, and we do that by outreaching to as many people as possible because then we get this street credibility and people will actually bring young people to us. So most of the homeless people downtown know me by name because I've been doing this for a long time, and so it's not infrequent that an older person will come up to me and go, you need to meet this kid, he just ran away, this kid doesn't know anything. Here, this is the guy you got to meet. And so we can make actually like warm handoffs because of having a good street cred, and we do that by just outreaching to everybody out there.
Could you describe a normal, kind of, like how do you start talking to people? You just walk up and start talking?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. Like what we do is it's team-based approach, and we try to stick to that for, to protect people on the street, also to protect us. Part of the concern there is that predators could go up and be like, hey, I'm with Yellow Brick Road, hop in my car. So the first thing is that we use this team-based approach out on the street. There's always at least 2 of us. Ideally, there'd be like 4 or 5 to a team each night. And like I said earlier, we use these bags right here. And for those of you in the back, the important thing to see is just that we're identifying ourselves.
The logo is at
You
the
can't
top
see
right
the
now.
label.
Yeah, I was trying to see that too.
There's the logo.
Thank you. This isn't packed with supplies. This is actually my own junk. But the first thing we want to do is identify ourselves as who we are. We're with a nonprofit. We're outreach workers. We're not a pimp. We're not a cop. We're not somebody you owe money to. We're not a rival street family member that's going to, jump you or 86 you from downtown. And we're going to start doing this like 10 feet away from you. Because so many people have mental health issues on the street, have anxiety on the street, are drug or alcohol affected, and we don't know until we actually begin the dialogue. I usually will start to like kind of swing my bag visibly about 10 feet away, and that's kind of how I train folks to do that. That way, if they know who we are and they don't want us around, they can just be like, no, and we'll just back off. The beauty of it is that we're not a hard sell. We're completely no strings attached. We're not numbers based, so we don't have to go out and like scramble for numbers. We really have the freedom to just roam around and as needed help people, which is a really, really great thing to do. And the way it's going to go down is basically just walk up to you, show you, as I'm coming, I'm going to approach you and I'm going to say, hey, we're Yellow Brick Road. Do you need anything tonight? And that's kind of the icebreaker. And then depending on what people say, it's going to usually be like, Yellow Brick Road, what's that? And then we launch into that we're a nonprofit, that we're not religious affiliated, because a lot of people misunderstand the word outreach and assume that you're with a church if you say outreach. That's not the case. So we're not religious affiliated, we're not politically affiliated. We're out every single night of the year, we're volunteer based. You can always find us on the streets from 6 to 9 p.m. And we carry first aid and hygiene supplies in our bags. So do you need anything? And then we'll just whip open our bag, take out all the stuff we have, and that's how we begin the process. And basically what we're doing is we're using all the supplies that are in our bag to try to build relationships with young people or anybody as quickly as possible. Try to establish rapport as quickly as possible in an effort to get to some of the more deeper work that we want to do. Like I wouldn't want to walk up to a total stranger and without offering anything, start asking them if they're homeless, are they doing sex work, are you on drugs? But I'll ask some pretty probing questions like 5 minutes into it. Like, cool, here's some socks, here's a toothbrush, here's a resource guide. Do you have a safe place to stay tonight? At that point, they're probably pretty cool that I'm asking that for a good reason and not for a creepy reason. And depending on their answer, we can sometimes provide escorts directly up to the youth shelter and give people bunks that night. That's the easy, quick scenario. It usually takes weeks and weeks of relationship building to get young people to trust us enough to do the escort and to try the services. And that's what outreach is all about. It's about being a front line, for all the services in the community. So sometimes I go out and I'll meet somebody in the park, and like I said, she might be all the way down here on like kind of the abstinence end of that spectrum, not doing drugs, not drinking, but hanging out on a school night. It's kind of late, and I might start to talk to her, and she's like, oh, I'm just into music, I don't know, I'm bored. I'll make a referral to like Rock Camp for Girls. She's not homeless, she just wants to be plugged into something. And the streets are kind of always there. So if you are bored and lonely and have low self-esteem, they're kind of always calling, And so we'll refer to anywhere, anything that'll work, basically.
I was wondering if you guys pass out condoms and clean needles to people.
Yeah, good question, because we're talking about harm reduction.
Yeah.
We do, yeah. We give out condoms for sure, like hundreds a week.
Yeah.
We give out flavored condoms for oral sex, and we explain what those are used for. A lot of folks we outreach to are doing survival sex. They're trading blowjobs for crack. If I can be blunt about it. And so we'll explain to people how to use condoms correctly. We have dental dams that we give out. We have lubrication that we give out. And speaking of harm reduction, a lot of times I do go out and talk to church groups, and I don't mention a lot of this at young school level, but I talk about this in churches, and I can usually get people to follow me when I talk about condoms. After a few minutes, I can usually get some buy-in on why condoms are important to distribute on the streets. But there's usually, this notion that like condoms I kind of get, but lubrication is just going way too far. That's excessive.